Welcome to the Thriving Farmer Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kilpatrick. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and celebrate sustainable farming. We believe that you can build a profitable, sustainable farm that gives you true farm freedom. Join us as we talk to farmers, innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs to glean their top takeaways in business and life. Real Organic Project is a farmer-led movement that provides an add-on certification held by over 1,000 certified organic, family-owned operations across North America. Real Organic Project strives to uplift farms working within the spirit, not just the letter, of organic principles. Real Organic certified farmers use practices that are centered around the foundational organic principles of soil-based crop production and pasture-based livestock agriculture. To remain accessible to all types of farmers, Real Organic Project fundraises year-round to keep this certification available at no cost to farmers. You can apply today at realorganicproject.org/thriving farmer. That is realorganicproject.org/thriving farmer. Hey, Thriving Farmers, Michael Kilpatrick here with yet another episode of the Thriving Farmer Podcast. Today, my guests are Ian and Rachel Harding, who are the co-owners of Wet Knot Farms, a sub-1 acre bio-intensive farm on leased land in Marietta, South Carolina. Ian and Rachel started the farm in 2019 after Ian finished a season-long internship at BioWay Farm the previous year. They grow specialty cut flowers and mixed vegetables on a semi-permanent 30-inch bed system. Ian heads up the field operations and now works on the farm full-time, while Rachel handles most of the office while also working full-time for a bank. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, right before we actually got on, you were mentioning where you are in South Carolina. So share a little bit about the location and kind of the history of that.
Cool. Yeah. So the land we lease is a little over 4 acres. It's in a narrow valley right on the edge of the Blue Ridge Mountains. We've got like a little creek that goes just on the border of one side of the farm. Historically, the upstate of South Carolina has been one of the poorer regions of the state. We got some of the, Appalachian culture going on. There's been, I'm sure there still is, but like lots of moonshine and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In the woods.
Yeah. So that's where all the songs were written about. And, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So talk to me, what does the weather look like? Because you said you're in a narrow valley. Does that affect kind of your what's going on?
Yeah, it does. So get tons of rain there, like even more than we do at our house, which is 7 miles in a straight line from there.
Okay. Yeah.
So the reservoir is there, and the guy that runs it was telling me one time that they've gotten up to like 120 inches of rain one year.
Oh, wow.
Something like that. Whereas house, it's 58 inches is the listed annual average. But just in the summertime, a lot of times like the pop-up thunderstorms they get hung up kind of on the mountains right there. So we'll get rain there and not at our house.
Yes. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. So how has that affected your growing systems? Have you changed up how you, altered how you compare to what normal people do to kind of like plant things, or you just have to dodge rain showers?
A little bit of dodging rain showers. In terms of cultivation for weed control, it does affect that. I don't think it's quite as effective. No, like you disturb a weed and it falls on wet ground, and you're not really doing much to it.
Yeah. So do you switch to a lot more ground cloth, or you just try to cultivate when you can?
Cultivate when I can. I like landscape fabric aesthetically, basically.
Yeah.
Bit of bowls, and it does get really hot, so we're trying some methods where we're not using them, but using like a craft paper that'll biodegrade with compost on top. So we'll like transplant into that, and so far it's looking pretty good, but we're kind of in the testing phase of that.
Oh, that's interesting. So share a little bit more about that craft paper. I'm assuming like it's a 48-inch roll, and how are you holding that down? Is it with staples or actually like sandbags?
Just the compost. Yeah. So I was poking on Uline. I was looking for the 30-inch wide cardboard rolls on there. To ship it, we have to do freight shipping. They don't do UPS on that, but they do for the craft paper rolls. So I was like, oh, let's give that a go and see what happens. But we get the 30-inch wide roll for that.
Okay. Interesting. And then you just put a little bit of compost on top of that and then plant through that.
Yeah, enough to hold it down, and then dibble a hole through the paper, and then the compost holds it down.
Okay, very cool. Now you do a lot of flowers and you also do vegetables. What kind of is your mix?
Let's see. For the vegetables, we're focusing a lot on the like high dollar per square foot stuff. So baby greens, lettuce. Then we do the normal like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, that sort of stuff in the summer. You know more of the flower stuff, Rachel.
Just a lot of what grows, does well in the South. We try and not do anything that is past zone 8. So we do some winter flowers within like a flower tunnel. Last year, I decided to do things in the field and not cover anything. And then we realized we're going to do the Lisa Mason Ziegler and where everything's kind of covered in those short hoops until they get established. And so far they're looking pretty good, pretty healthy. So
gotcha. So kind of recap that. I couldn't quite hear you there. You were saying that most everything is going under low hoops now.
Low hoops just throughout the winter. And back to your question on how we've kind of had to change our ways of growing with all the wet. We've had to space a lot of our stuff out just because we do see a little bit of fungal issues. So we're just trying to give them a little more room to breathe.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and this is our second field we've grown in. Our first one was like absolutely full sun, like no shade anywhere. So the flowers there, we would really pack them in, and some of the vegetables too. You could pack them in tighter than at our current field. Gets partial shade and just not very good air movement.
Gotcha. Yeah, now that makes a huge difference. And so you do a wide range of flowers. I'm seeing everything from poppies to tulips to ranunculus and yarrow, all sorts of fun things. What would you say is your favorite flowers to grow?
Oh, well, I love, the showy flowers like Italian poppies and ranunculus. I don't know, but there's also a lot of variety that you get with zinnias, and there's just so much, hominess to it, and so.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing some dahlias as well here. Do you overwinter your dahlias in the ground where you are with the warmth, or is the wetness make that not a good thing for the winter?
No, we dig them up just because we have so like wet winters here. Yeah, we just probably would be prone to wet. And at Christmas, we had a very unusual 3-degree freeze. Here, so we definitely would have lost all, most, if not all, the dahlias if we had left them in the ground.
Yeah. We got that same freeze, and I think we were at -8 or -9 degrees is how cold we got, which was
holy cow.
Yeah, that was pretty robust. I will say though, we had canna lily bulbs in the ground, and they were mulched heavily with wood chips, and then we put about 1.5 feet of straw on top of that. And I just dug some up yesterday to ship out because we sell the tubers, and they looked great, and they were actually actively starting to grow a bit. So
nice.
yeah, I think there's I think there's some, again, I think the moisture would be the bigger thing. Obviously they don't like moisture. So if you were able to tarp them and, keep them with dry feet, but yeah, again, I love dahlias. I just hate digging them up and planting them every year. So
Yeah, I love the way they grow. And because once we put them in, like, yeah, just flowers keep coming up, and
mhm.
it's the messing with the tubers. It's the
Yeah,
only thing I don't like about them. But
yeah,
Well, eventually I want to sell the tubers, not all of them, but divide them and sell them because people around here make a lot of money and you don't have to be local. You can ship tubers easily.
Yeah.
So that's something I would like to incorporate in the future, but I've just been trying to get better at it.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk through a little bit of the marketing. So where do you sell your products?
Farmers market, the Travelers Rest Farmers Market is the one we sell at, and that's been pretty good. We also sell some to local florists with the flowers, a teeny bit to restaurants, and then we've done some retail with some kind of like food hubs in the area, which has been pretty cool. We want to expand that bit a little, the restaurant and retail more.
Yeah. So that's a farmer's market. Are you selling any CSA, or is it just vegetables on your stand? Kind of what's your marketing channels?
Yeah, we just do the like a la carte vegetables on the stand, and then market bouquets for the flowers. And we have like a couple different sizes of those. It was kind of a grab and go. One of our goals for this year, though, is we do want to do like the CSA light, like salad centric CSA, to have more of the customers be our customers than just they're at the farmers market and happen to buy from us. We want them to be there to pick up something from us and then buy more stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. So then with the farmers market, is that just you guys that go? Do you have to bring help? And then like how big of a stall do you set up?
Yeah, we do like a 10 by 10 tent is we're considering doing like an extra one for like 10 by 20.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't decided if we're going to do that yet. And yeah, it's usually just Rachel and I.
We are trying to focus on the customers.
Uh-huh.
So we would really like to have an extra help at the farmers market, so we can focus on talking to our customers and just developing those relationships further.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we found that when we went from 10 by 10 to 10 by 20, we more than doubled sales, because it really allows people to come into your stand better, and they feel like they just feel like they're more in instead of being outside and looking in. Yeah, it was just really interesting to watch the dynamic when you have more space.
Sweet. Yeah, because with the flowers and vegetables, it's kind of like, yeah, there's not a lot of room to
You're kind of
Yeah.
competing
display
with
it.
space.
Yeah.
We're trying to do that whole U. So
Yeah. And a 10 by 10 is just not quite right enough to do a U unless your sides are like outside of your 10 by 10. And people need their personal space too. And so that's another aspect of it. So yeah. All right. Yeah. So then with that, does that market go year round or you're seasonal?
It's seasonal. It goes May till end of September. So start of May, end of September.
they do have a few like winter series where it's like once a month, or the Mary market. So we generally can have at least one market a month with them. They just kind of do it in little series like that.
Yeah. One thing I noticed here on your website is you have a blog article about forcing branches.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about that. Is that something that you provide that information for like your customers so they know, or just is that more of a general blog article that you wrote?
It's a little bit of both. In the February market, I really didn't have flowers, so I was just cutting branches, and I was trying to build some awareness around forcing branches, and also use that as building trust with our customers and giving them free resources as well. they want to buy our branches, that's great, but it doesn't have to always be from us. So,
What kind of branches do you put into your bouquets?
we have a lot of the forsythia around our farm, but also spirea is another favorite. And there's several varieties that do well here. And then the peach blossoms, or are they cherry blossom trees? There's also a more compact one on our farm that we cut off of. So, and we're just looking for more woodies like that to add to our bouquets. So,
Yeah. With all your moisture, it sounds like you might be good for some willows.
oh
Yep.
yeah, I have one rooting right now.
Very cool. One of the things we've been working on is expanding our willow line. So we now have, I think we're up to 12 or 13. And I want to add another couple, because what we found is that, yes, you can cut them all and they all will hold in the cooler, but there is also a natural progression that if you have I have the Woody Cut Stems book, and that actually talks in detail about, like, if you get certain varieties, you can have like a 2 to 3 month basically series of different ones that will start, to bud out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I've realized I got a few gaps in our mix, which I need to kind of fill up. So, yeah. So at the market then, are you guys organic, or are you like low spray? How do you kind of market yourselves in that regard?
Yeah, so we follow all the organic practices. We're not certified. I've been thinking about doing the certified naturally grown, just because that's, and the reason we haven't certified is we're on, like, with the leased land. Like, the first field we were there for 2 seasons, so we wouldn't even have, like, we would have gone through the waiting period to transition to organic before we ever had anything to sell, basically. So that's the main reason we haven't done that.
Also record keeping. We need to get
we need to get better at that.
That's one of the goals this year.
Yeah. So one of the things I see you do at your market is a flower bar. Talk to me a little bit about how that's worked out for you.
Well, that was truly our first one a couple weeks ago, and people just were thrilled about it. They loved it. I guess last year I would always bring extra buckets of flowers, and people kind of were like trying to do this already. So I was like, all right, I've got all these buckets of flowers. Let's just go ahead and set up a flower bar. And I didn't really think much about it, except, kind of what, like, set a certain price per stem. And then some flowers that are cheaper to grow were just considered filler. People really responded well to that, and had a lot of fun.
Yeah, they really loved it. The reaction was really good.
So you mentioned some flowers are cheaper to grow. Which ones do you consider those to be?
Well, in the spring, daffodils, they're just a lower price point. But also we just had a lot of daffodils around that we didn't plant, so we've been using those. You could also say, the woodies that you're forcing, or they're blooming out, you could use that as well. So those are kind of the cheaper ones in the spring, and then anything grown from seeds just going to be cheaper as well.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about the overall aspect of the farm. Do you try to rotate beds between flowers and vegetables, or do you more keep those two areas separate on the farm?
We mix them in. It's more how they want to be watered.
Okay.
Because a lot of the vegetables we do overhead watering. A lot of the flowers don't really like that. So we kind of have zones of tape versus wobblers. And so, but within the drip tape zone, like, we can have vegetables and flowers that both prefer that type of irrigation.
Gotcha. And then do you try to do any sort of like bare fallow or like downtime between crops, like for a certain number to control weeds, or you're flipping and going right to the next crop?
Yeah, mostly flipping and going right to the next crop. If there's space in between, we have silage tarps that we'll put
Uh-huh.
out to kind of like as a placeholder,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And then talk to me a little bit about the restaurants. I think you said you work with some restaurants. How do you make that work?
So far, not so great, but
Okay.
no,
It's more relationship based, where they feel comfortable to just send a message through Instagram.
yeah. So it's kind of like working with the chef, figuring out what they want, when they want it, get there on time. One of the restaurants I work with, like I used to work at, so like I have a pretty good rapport with them. I don't sell them tons of stuff, but like it's always like a convenient stop. We also try and line our restaurants up in a essentially like a straight delivery line
Uh-huh.
into
Mhm.
Greenville, which is the bigger city around here. So we'll go through like TR into Greenville, but if it's over, even though it may be closer to us, but it's not in line to Greenville, we haven't really branched out to areas like that so far.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. And then how are they ordering? Are you just again Instagramming them a list of what you've got, or?
Mostly over like yeah, Instagram or text is the main thing. We use Square is our point of sale,
Mhm.
Squarespace. I get confused with those. So we can send invoices that way. Um, whenever they're ready to order. They can also, if they want to, order from our website, and we can change that to the wholesale pricing for them.
We're
Yeah.
testing out a wholesale page. Right now it's just for florists, but I think I'd like to test that for food soon too.
Yeah. We don't do a lot of wholesale, but we were actually hoping to put it right through our local line store.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about them, and I've wanted to check it out, but
Yeah, I'll let you know how it goes this year.
Cool.
The biggest holdup right now, which they're actively working on, is their subscription part of it. So, because we do our CSA through Farmigo, and we are not interested in continuing that relationship any longer. If it's just anyway. That I would say the main problem is the customer service is really challenging. I mean, like if like you got a customer has a problem, you kind of need to be able to get them an answer really soon. And Farmigo says they have 48 hours to get back to you for customer service, and that just isn't.
Oh yeah,
That's not fast enough. So local line is literally like 15, 20 minutes, a lot of the time. They're really fast to get back to you. So they have a chat feature too. So again, that's not my department on the farm, but yeah, our team seems to be happy with that so far.
Sweet.
So talk to me a little bit about kind of the cycle of the year. Do you guys pretty much really heavy in the summer and then a lot less in the winter? I know you are only going to markets for like once a month in the wintertime.
Yeah, we slow it down in the winter for sure. Because yeah, we haven't had the markets yet to sell a lot, and then kind of that transition in between the two is hard since we're on a smaller land base. Like it's really hard to crops that are still producing and selling a lot to put in kale that won't really start producing until kind of the dead of winter or whatever.
Yeah.
When it comes into its own, it's like I don't know.
Yeah. That is the same problem of just if spring and fall or just the farm has literally completely full, and we do a lot of strawberries. And so that's the problem is there's just no more space. I mean, last year it was like, okay, these 3 beds are coming out so I can get 3 more beds of garlic in. It's literally what kind of the discussion was. And we planted garlic where I'd never thought I'd plant garlic before, but it worked. And we're actually in the process of now renting another additional piece of property to take some pressure off of that. So hopefully that will work.
Nice.
So
I know in January we decided to just cut all sales. It was just really nice to take the pressure off from trying to, scrounge around for what, we could potentially sell. And it was just a nice break. And I think, that freeze in December just really kind of force us to. And I would really like to do that every year.
Yeah, no, I think that's something key. I mean, we did take a week or two off this winter, and that's having that with no customers around. And the one thing is we run a multiple day a week farm store that's on our property and literally, a couple 100 yards from our house. So that is challenging. We literally have people on top of us every single day. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, even just the aspect of going to markets, I know that can be a struggle too. Just that constant pressure and constant having to think about it. And I think, especially with farmers who, during the summer, especially your weeks can be so long, having some weeks in the wintertime, you're doing nothing can be super important.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Nicholas and Jenny. We are the proud owners of Crystal Organic Farm, located in Newborn, Georgia. It's at about an hour east of Atlanta. I just realized today, actually talking to a friend of mine, this is my 30th year in organic farming. And so we've been certified all along. We raise organic vegetables, some fruits, also medicinal herbs. That's something that we're getting into. And we've always been certified for 30 years. And my mother actually certified in the mid 80s. So this farm has been certified for a long, long time. We eat organic food. We source all local food. We're really into what we eat and where the food comes from. Jay and I, we were talking and going to the grocery store that even like organic, you have to read the labels. And the word organic does not mean what it used to mean. And so when the Real Organic Project came on and we talked about it, it seemed like a great fit for us because it seems that they really are trying, the Real Organic Project is trying to, the word organic still to mean what it should mean. And for people like Jenny and I that are very committed to eating organic, there's a trust factor that just organic has lost, for us anyway. So a Real Organic Project idea rhymes with us really well because of how we live our life. Not only because we're organic farmers, but even if we weren't organic farmers, we would seek something like that out. So
I think, yes, also for us, like the word organic has quite literally become super watered down with the introduction of hydroponics and different aspects of, the organic farming. And so this label not only goes back to the roots of what organic farming used to mean, say when Nicholas started 30 years ago, but also, like he said, this reassurance moving forward that what you're getting is true organic product. And also the Real Organic Project looks at the health of the farm as a whole, the health of the employees, or if there's animals on the farm. And I think that's super important as well, because this word regenerative is also kind of being thrown around a lot or perhaps watered down as well. And so when you're looking at the farm as a whole, that's truly what regenerative means. But I feel like the Real Organic Project goes a step further than organic and than the word regenerative.
yeah, and one more thing is that certification costs money, organic certification, and is required to be part of the Real Organic Project. But there's so much money tied up in all this, and the fact that Real Organic Project is working on donations, it's not like an organization that tries to grab more money.
Well, it's working from farmers and at the grassroots level, started by farmers. There's farmers running it, farmers working for it, like people that have true experience in farming are the Real Organic Project. It's not just someone sitting behind a desk that's never stepped foot on a farm and understands what it takes to farm and to farm organically and beyond organically. And that's super important too, that the people working for and working with the Real Organic Project really get that.
Now, Ian, I want to talk because you actually had brain surgery last year. I mean, a pretty sudden, you had a cyst, which, burst and caused some major challenges. And talk us through a little bit about that, because I know that probably put a tremendous amount of pressure on you guys as farmers and on as the family.
Yeah, for sure. It was, I was born with it, so I knew it was there and that it was kind of a possibility at any point. But in January, February, I had like a series of like where I'd just have really bad headaches for a while. And I guess providentially it just kind of lined up that it was like the last wave of COVID or whatever. And so I couldn't go into my normal doctor because like whatever checklist of symptoms. Some of them were COVID symptoms, so I had to go to like a hospital type clinic. And I was doing the check-in thing there, and before I finished the paperwork, like, all right, let's just get you back here. Let's get this stroke questionnaire out of the way. And I was like, oh, this has never happened before.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a big wake up call. Got to ride in an ambulance to the hospital, needed brain surgery. And then the recovery process from that just kind of takes a really long time. Which totally threw our whole farm season off. And before we left the hospital, even, I was like, yeah, just cancel all our farm plans for the year.
Yeah.
We survived because of the fall planting of flowers. And
Mm.
that actually, like, we rode that into about May or June.
May, yeah.
And then we started planting summer crops. So we had a little bit of income where I would go to market and sell the flowers.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how we survived last year.
Yeah, and family-wise too, it took a really big toll because early on in the recovery process, like, I couldn't drive or anything. So
Mhm.
Rachel
Mhm.
had to ferry me around. I had to go through like all sorts of therapy stuff, like physical therapy and speech therapy, all that sort of thing, to get
Mm.
back up to like a semblance of normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she had to drive me around to that. Some of those
A-
were pretty fun, but whatever.
And you have 3 kids.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you have family in the area that was able to help with those, or did you have to just bring in other friends? And
So yeah, like all my family, sisters live within 20 minutes. And then my parents live within 45 minutes of us. So they were able to help
Mm.
out. And then at the farm, just lots of our farmer friends came in to do like weeding, field
Mhm.
work, and stuff like that.
Even watering.
Yeah, just watering stuff like that.
When
Yeah.
we couldn't get to it because of we were going to the hospital and making
Mhm.
sure everything was fine. So a lot of people just pitched in.
Yeah. Now with that, so when that surgery, would they go in and like remove it, or what did they actually do?
I'm still not sure exactly, but
You're not sure what you paid all that
But-
money for.
yeah, so there's I was unclear about what they were going to do in the surgery, I should say. Yeah, no, I have a big scar on top of my head.
Okay.
They went in. Luckily, I have hair that covers it, so I
Yeah.
guess not. It looked pretty cool, but no one gets to see it but me. Yeah, so they went in, they removed it. For the most part, there's still lots of fat and oil floating around in there,
Mm.
which is irritating from time to time. But yeah, for the most part, it's out.
Yeah. And so you couldn't speak right afterwards. So you just kind of like, I mean, I'm sure, Rachel, for you, there was just a lot of like unknown.
Oh yeah. Kind of in the thick of it, you just kind of take it one day at a time.
Mhm. Mhm.
And there were definitely times where I just didn't know how, it was really hard. And
Yeah.
even medication, like changing moods and things.
Oh yeah,
So
Yeah.
the steroids and stuff they put you on, like roid rage is real.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So
That
just
was
dealing
no
with
fun.
that too. I mean, you're on one aspect, Rachel, you're like, bend over helping him, trying to get all this stuff taken. Then like, he's just like combatively not, or just like, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm trying to help you here.
Yeah,
So-
pretty much. Yeah, that was
Yes.
a big part of it. And then the other part, just being like super, super weak, like
Yeah.
not being able to do stuff. And yeah, that took forever before I could lift like a reasonable amount. Like one day in therapy, I think I did like, I really hurt myself, like just doing an unweighted squat. Like I felt like I
Yeah.
tore a muscle. I was like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
how am I gonna, like if I'm like this, I cannot farm.
Yeah. Yeah. So that happened, I think you said was that like in January when that happened of last year?
I think I went into the hospital February 3rd or 4th.
Okay.
I had surgery the 8th, and then was discharged the 15th of February. And then the therapy process started at the end of March and finished at the end of May. And right at the end of that therapy process, I had started doing some more kind of field work on the farm, but
Mm-hmm.
being helped out by other farmers in the area.
Yeah. 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 So you did a great job, and I really recommend folks go to your website, wetnotfarms.com, and to your blog and just read your post on that, but kind of share a little bit. I kind of like summarize that, share a little bit with us. Like, what were your big takeaways from this?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big wake up call, like just in terms of like mortality and frailty. Like, if you're banking on in 5 years' time, my life will look like this, that's not guaranteed. Like, I mean, nothing's guaranteed. You could, a meteorite could fall through my roof right now and hit me, but
Yeah.
it won't. But so that was a big wake up call, just to kind of get so wrapped up that I'm missing out on family life. Like, I'd just been working way too late at night or into the evenings, like just trying to keep the farm going, and then I'd get home and be wiped out and not able to like spend time with my wife or kids. And I just felt like, waiting around in the hospital before surgery, it was just like, wow, if this is it, like I've totally blown it. I need to,
Yeah.
if I get out, I need to not do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think part of what you wrote there too is that, farmer isn't your primary identity. You're, first a husband and father, and then, the farmer has to be further down the list, even though many times we think it's our primary identity.
Yeah. It sucks up as much time as you give it, basically. So setting a boundary to be like, you get me until like 5 o'clock, and then sorry, farm, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah. But it also means that
yourself.
you prioritize too. It makes it a little bit tighter prioritization.
Yeah. I've heard other people talk about that kind of constraints in farming, where you got kids, you got to be out of the farm by 4. You'll get everything done by 4. Whereas if you got till 8 or 9 at night, like it's going to take until 8 or 9 at night. So setting like hard time limits, I think, really helps you, like, A, get a bit more done, but B, like, yeah, you pick the important things in life.
You also speak a little bit about your faith too. How did that affect your faith and kind of just that whole experience?
Yeah, it was definitely like challenged some things. Like, so yeah, first off, I'll just say I'm a Christian. That's what Protestant flavor Christian. But yeah, just the way everything happened, I saw a lot of like God's providence there lining that up so that things happened. They were terrible, but in the best way could have happened. Like I had a mini stroke or whatever at some point, and I don't understand how strokes work, but just the parts of my brain that it affected, like it was literally nothing important.
Yeah.
And even if it had been something important, I don't think it would change how I feel about that. It's not.
Yeah.
My faith would have withstood a less positive outcome.
Also, he would work the farm 6 days a week and then work like a restaurant job on Sunday. And we just said, you're not going to work on Sunday. You're going to come to church with the family, and you're going to take this day of rest. So that was another big change from this.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of like,
enshrining that day of rest just to make sure that you do have that with the family. I will say, the kids that are here, we're very busy with everything we've got going on, and they count down like Monday. It's 6 more days till Sunday, because that is the family day, and that's when they know they get a movie, and we try to do, it's just them. And actually, this Sunday we spur of the moment. There's a antique. I don't know, it's called Antique Village, but it's basically you can rent a little space, and they have bingo. And so we took the kids and we did bingo through the Antique Village, and they thought that was just a blast.
Nice.
Yeah, just a little simple things. But I get what you're saying too there, though. Back to what you said there, Ian, is that, through this whole thing, God was incredibly merciful in the aspect that, it could have been way worse, but, he spared you a number of different aspects too. It was one of those things he needed you to go through it, but he was also going to give you some grace in that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, also to challenge some like beliefs, like if you work hard, God will reward you. And, there's nothing wrong with, hard work, but sometimes you just have to go through a lot of hard stuff, and God's providence is still in that hard times. So.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a parable about that. I think there's a couple. I think the one that comes to mind is the parable of the laborers. Is there were some folks that were laboring literally all day for the same amount of wage as the people that worked an hour.
Yep.
And I think one of the guilt trips that has been placed on us by the church over the years has been, well, God wants you to do all these things. And it's not necessarily about things. It's about the relationship with him, and it's about, the relationships we have with other people in our lives. And I think that is where so often we miss the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what would you say the biggest outcome for this has been? We talked about a little bit. Would you say, share with us, what do you feel like the biggest outcome from this, going through this as a family, has been?
I think it's brought us closer together for sure, and a bit more thankful for the times we do have together. And just like a little funny story about how sudden going to the hospital was, like the night before we watched Onward. Have you ever seen that one?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the main character, like dad, because he like was in the hospital with a bunch of tubes hooked up, but whatever.
Yeah. So it was kind of just, it was a little bit of a, oh, look at this. And then, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
It's definitely brought us closer as a family, and more thankful for the times we do have together. And also it's like put an end to the kind of insane work hours. And I'd say occasionally there's times when like, coming up, like it's going to rain this day. I need to really, this is my last chance for maybe a month to get like field work done. So maybe I'll spend a little bit late then, but like, and then developing systems to eliminate the need for that sort of groundwork is the other thing we focus on.
In therapy, they gave them like tools of like how to deal with problems, and just the way we think about things too. So just kind of using those, and he's been able to take a step back and look at things a little more with without emotion.
Yeah, less emotion.
So,
That's maybe the biggest thing. Actually.
So so I guess what you're saying there is then just really more putting the whole cold hard numbers to some things and making decisions a little bit more by then
Well, one of the big things is like you take like an emotional not checklist, but survey of how you are. So if I'm upset, going to solve a problem, I need to move it aside, and I'll come back to it like maybe even a week later and think about it in a non-emotional, like when I'm calmed down from whatever, like I'll be able to think of a better solution then than if I'm scrambling to try and figure it out in the heat of the moment, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah. So slowing down the decision-making process, giving a little bit more time for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else you'd like to share with us before we go?
Hmm.
Do you got anything, Rachel?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
That's totally fine. What is your favorite tool on the farm? I guess let's end with that one.
Oh yeah, my Kubota tractor. That's my favorite, hands down.
Okay. All right. And then Rachel?
Oh, can I just? I usually just stick with the dibble.
Okay.
I translate a lot.
Yep. All right. Do you have a specific dibbler you like?
Oh, that wooden one. Ian would know. He buys
It's
all the
you get it from Earth Tools. I think it's the Amon or whatever
Okay.
that.
Yep.
The handle's offset, so it's more ergonomic.
Ah, yes. Yeah. I'm looking at garden tools right now. See if it pops up here.
with
I'm
the
just-
the metal point.
Yes. Yeah. I know which one you're talking about now. Garden tools. Here we go. About these tools. I'm just scrolling down through here. Hand trowels, dibbler. Oh, yes, it's AMMANN. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Swiss made.
Yes. Yeah. And it's a little bit offset. I get that. It's slightly a crooked handle, more ergonomical. Very
Yep.
cool. Yeah. And Joel's a great guy to do work with. It's good stuff down there. So
Yeah. Well, I like every time or not every time, but a lot of times when he called there, like the guy on the phone. So
yes. Yeah.
pretty
Yeah. Well,
cool.
and actually, it's interesting. You can't buy through their website. At least you couldn't for a while. And I think it's still true is that you actually have to call in for an order. And he says, yeah, because I want to talk to you and make sure that what you're buying is going to work for you.
Yeah.
So I find because he could probably double his business if it was available, when they weren't open. Because granted, I say most of my time of ordering stuff is not during business hours. And sometimes the place that gets my business is the place that will either has an online e-commerce presence or they pick up the phone after hours. So, yeah.
Yep.
Well, Ian and Rachel, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And best of luck for you guys. As I'm sure you're still figuring things out as you're, getting through this. But
Oh yeah.
thanks for sharing and best of luck with this growing season.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks. You too.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool.
Joining me today is Dan from Steward, a mission-driven financial partner for farms across the U.S. Dan, value-added products are exploding right now, and especially farmers are really starting to see the profit in them. Why is that?
Well, value-added products give the margin that farmers need to be successful. Selling, raw material, raw product at the market price is really challenging. And so if you can have a value-added product branded and sold direct, it really provides viability to the farmer. The challenge is there's a lot of pieces that have to come together in order to be successful.
I know for us, taking a cucumber that we were getting $1 for, turning it into a $7 or $9 jar of pickles made a huge difference in our profit margin. Now, there's a lot of steps, though, that you said need to come together. What are those?
So the difference between value-added product is you're dealing with processing, packaging, labeling, direct sales. And so a lot of farms don't necessarily have the infrastructure, they don't have the marketing budget, they don't have all the pieces needed to not only create the products, but push them out into the market. And so we've been working with a lot of farms. We'll provide a loan for them to build out the equipment and infrastructure needed to make the value-added product, to process it and batch it and label it. And then also assist them with USDA grants, such as the value-added producer grant, which can then cover the marketing costs, the labor, softer costs that are hard to finance, but which the farm may not have themselves. So when we're looking at value-added products, it's the direction that we support the farms that we fund. That's the direction they should be going over time. More value-added products, better margin, more direct sales. But it takes a lot of alignment with the organization to do that. And you want to make sure there's not too much risk and too many resources expended on that. And so by balancing that with financing and grants and other opportunities that are out there, it can be a really powerful mix for farmers.
Like that 1-2 punch to push you over the edge and get you going. I think one of the things a lot of people get frustrated or held back by is a kitchen, those facilities. But you can do development even in your own kitchen as long as you're not selling that product. And then once you get that viability going, then you go find a shared use kitchen or do even build out your own with your help to take it to production level. Now, we've worked with some farms on this. Talk a little bit about that.
So one of the farms I enjoyed telling the story about most is Byler's Heritage Acres. It's an Amish farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. We connected them through a chef who had been buying from this farmer for years. He was selling milk through the co-op. The co-op went out of business. So him and other Amish farmers didn't have a market for their product. So Steward provided financing to do value-added processing for dairy to be able to sell butter and cream and yogurt, and also helped the farmer with a value-added producer grant to cover the labor and operational costs to set that up. And the chef who introduced us to this farmer then also purchased the final product and is selling that in his restaurants and at his shop. And so that was an example of taking a farmer who has a really great product, who's been cut out of the traditional market by intermediaries falling apart, which happens often, and taking it within their own hands to do a value-added product, to cut out the intermediaries and then get the margin that's needed for viability. Obviously, dairy is a very difficult business and you have to be in value add to make the numbers work.
Absolutely. If you're looking for a non-traditional, mission-driven financial partner who understands the business of regenerative agriculture, reach out to gosteward.com today. This episode is brought to you by Steward. Steward is transforming agriculture by equipping regenerative farms and food systems with the capital they need to grow. As a mission-driven financial partner, Steward works closely with agriculture businesses to scale their operations, improve the health of their lands and waters, and bolster local to regional food systems. To date, Steward has provided over $15 million in business loans to fund 75 unique projects, backed by more than 1,500 participating lenders. Steward is proud to be a certified B Corp. Seek financing or support a loan campaign at gosteward.com. So there you have it, another episode in the books. So I'd love if you would hop on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Those mean everything to us. We love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a podcast guest that you can recommend, please pop on over to the Thriving Farmer Podcast website and leave us a review. That's thrivingfarmerpodcast.com.